Welcome to the NC Spin After Spin. Additional comments from our panelists just available on our website. John Hood, what do you wish you had had the chance to say last week, but you didn't?
Tom, we were talking about Governor Cooper's decision to move to the next phase, which he calls phase two, and I would not. Does not deserve that appellation. But one of the things that I mentioned was that it did not really apply the data and the analysis that his own administration has been using for the past 2 weeks. And I think this is really important to follow. The case count is probably the least useful metric. This has been true for weeks because it is so sensitive to the amount of testing and whether people feel like they should go out and be tested. It's not so much a lack of testing equipment at this point, it's people's desire to seek a test. And the reason why you don't want to focus on that in part is because we have other measures like symptoms at the emergency rooms and in hospitals,
Right.
which is either flat or declining. The percent of people get a test who test positive, which is flat or declining, is quite low now. Used to be higher. Those are more relevant measures. But the other reason is, and this is not something that this is what the quote experts who work for or work with Governor Cooper have been pointing out, probably not getting very much attention. We don't have 20,000. Infections in North Carolina. We have 200,000, 220,000. That's the real number, okay? It's something like a factor of 10 or 15 of the confirmed cases. What that means in part is that if you sweat, well, the amount of confirmed cases went up 20 or 50 or 100 or 200, it's against a backdrop that is much, much larger. The denominator of the fraction is so much larger that you are tracking trends that probably aren't very meaningful. Now, what would be a meaningful trend is if you had a sudden large increase in hospitalizations or in ICU use, and so you really had to concern yourself with, are we going to outstrip our capacity? That is not the case. There are some upticks here or there, but basically North Carolina's hospitals are underpopulated. They're not overpopulated. Right. And so because Governor Cooper and Mandy Cohen, they explained this in the past, I thought fairly well, that's one of the reasons why it is so, I was frankly shocked that then they cited the case count for going back on their plan. I just think that was a poor decision. I think it, in fact, reflected political pressure as much as anything else, and it saddened me. It was foolish.
You know, I hate to think that politics is involved in making these decisions, but unfortunately, I'm afraid that in many instances you're right. Despite saying we're going to deal with the science and the statistics and so forth, there are big pressures being applied on both sides.
Yes, and in fact, just to, because I've been critical of Cooper, let me say quickly, there are lots of Republican activists, politicians, conservatives that I know who do the same thing. They are simply looking for the latest piece of evidence that confirms their pre-existing biases. That is not the right way to analyze this very complex and challenging problem.
Absolutely correct on that. Well, thanks for watching the After Spin. We'll have more video all during the week on ncspin.com.